Dingle, dongle, dingle. Every time I use a dongle, it feels like... Hey!
Hello!
I'm Nicole.
And I'm Amanda.
And this is the Cancer Sisters podcast.
Ep.4, Season 2.
Reclining, Recovery, and Reflection. Dun, 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 dun.
We have lots to talk about.
It's been a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually been... it's a Thursday, so it's been...
A month?
No. 17 days? 18 days since your surgery?
Yeah.
And we've been busy.
Very busy.
You have been busy. You've
Don't
been busy. You've been busy reclining and recovering.
Yes.
And I have not been reflecting.
No.
No.
You've been helping me.
I've been
A lot.
nursing.
Yes.
Nurse maiding. I've not been nursing. I've been nurse maiding. That's a different subject.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start with the easy stuff.
Your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's quick and easy.
Go for it.
When we last spoke, I told our listeners that I had a CT scan, and WWO turned out to be with and without. Because I had an abdominal and chest CTs,
Mm-hmm.
and the contrast dye was for my abdomen.
Got it.
So I did end up taking prednisone and Benadryl beforehand.
And that worked?
It worked pretty well. The next day I had like a little bit of a flush, but it did work pretty well. I took more Benadryl when I came home. But to cut to the results,
Yes.
my innards are completely unremarkable. Yay!
You're so boring.
So boring. Not a cyst, nary a mass to be found.
Nary a lesion around.
Nary a lesion. So good news for now. And I think I mentioned the last time that I won't have a flex sig for another 6 months, and then I won't have until like late spring any other kind of scans. I won't have a CT scan again until June.
Yeah, they're going to be spread out.
But I do have an MRI scheduled for, I think, late March, because that would be the MRI that was 1 year from the last one, the one that declared me as in remission. So it's not that I'm done with scans, but I will get a little bit more space here and there.
Which is excellent.
Yeah.
Not forced to think about it. It's not all up in your face.
Correct. I don't have to think about it all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
So, we're mostly going to be talking about what you've been doing for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about the recovery and the reclining that I'm doing. And then we're going to move on to some reflection. And I think I'm using all the R words. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about...
the length of your surgery?
Oh, there's that.
Well, when you went into it, what we knew was something like 3 or 4 hours.
They said 4 hours.
And that was, what do we want to call that? Kindly, we'll call that an understatement. So
well, this is still your part, because I was clueless. So you get to tell this story.
So I don't know the exact length, but what I could guess from when we spoke to the surgeons was that all in all, it was about 8.5 hours.
Right.
I spoke to one doctor after about 4 hours, and he said, and that might have been like 3.5 hours, but he said that you were doing perfectly well, but that the two surgeons were working together to do the first part of your surgery, and that was complete. And then Dr. Subichin, as Dr. Welsh was with me on the phone, Dr. Subichin was preparing to, I think harvest is the right word, your gracilis muscle. And that part itself was going to take about 90 minutes.
And harvest they did.
So the second, I guess I'll call it the second half of your surgery, that's where the waiting got, boring. and anxious and excruciating, because we were sitting next to that huge screen that has, everybody's assigned a number, and it says where you are. So it could be, in recovery or just arrived or
right,
whatever.
your status.
You were the last person on the board.
That's crazy.
Out of what I can only guess is maybe 50.
I saw that board when we got there. It was full across basically a giant TV. So at least 50 people that were in the OR.
Yeah, and it's just... that was a little bit...
all this to say, I had some friends that told me too, they felt bad about bugging you, but they were waiting for updates, and they're like, good Lord, what's taking so long? And like...
And I forgot, I said, I'll keep you updated, but to, a few people that I was texting, or who had texted me, and I just forgot, because I was just so wrapped up in the same questions myself.
Right.
Like, when am I going to hear from somebody? What's going on? To the point where the receptionist was like, well, I'm going home now. And,
oh my gosh.
And I was talking to this woman who was waiting hours to see her grandchild. And, it was a surprise, so she didn't know, boy or girl. She knew healthy, but I think it was like a C-section. And so she had a lot of waiting to find out, and then all of a sudden they were gone, and it was just us left in the waiting area. All of that to say is that when we did talk to your surgeons, they said you were fine the whole time.
Which,
nothing to worry
God.
about. Yeah, you were healthy. I don't know if healthy is the right word. No, like you were fine through it all.
Yeah.
Which is astonishing to me, because there wasn't a problem with anesthesia. There wasn't a problem with
heart and lungs.
Yeah, thanks heart and lungs. Yeah, thanks organ systems.
Yeah.
You tolerated it well, which is pretty astonishing. And then we didn't see you that night because it was going to be maybe a couple more hours after you were out of surgery before you were in recovery, and we were getting to like after midnight time, and they said, your one doctor said to us, he said, don't bother, because she won't even know you're here or not.
Right.
So
it's true.
That felt a little weird, leaving the hospital, but...
Yeah, which I woke up somewhere around 1 a.m. because there's a big clock in there, and I had no idea where I was, and I was like, 1 a.m.? Like, what happened?
Where am I, and where have I been? Yeah.
I was like, what happened? Because at, 13 hours after I went into surgery, so I was just, and I remember very quickly, like, I think it was just, timing. They were coming to check on me. Very quickly, the nurse came in the room and, checked on me and said, you're in the hospital, this is your room, and you did fine, and then I fell back asleep. And
thus began the reclining and the recovery.
Yeah.
So do you want to pick up from sort of what you first noticed, besides the giant clock and that you really didn't know where you were?
Yeah.
What you were sort of covered in tubes and such. Like, what did you notice?
Yeah, so the whole thing is, like, I knew that this was a very involved surgery, but nothing can prepare you for, like, what's actually happening, so I'm laying in a hospital bed. I've got those alternating squeezy things.
Do you know when I talked about it, I
couldn't remember. Those?
They're kind of like blood pressure cuffs. I know that the nurses who are listening to us right now are like shouting the names to us, but they keep your blood moving when you're sedentary.
Yeah.
And they progressively inflate and deflate.
Right.
So we can tell you what they are, but we don't
Somebody could tell
you what they...
Right now I'm calling them squeezy cuffs.
Squeezy. Sounds like you're trying to rap.
I know. But I'm not, everyone. I'm not. And then, they were giving me a blood thinner, and they're asking me which arm, and I'm like, I don't care. They're just popping into my shoulder, and then...
and of course you weren't getting up, so you had a catheter.
I wasn't getting up. They told me I had a catheter, and I was kind of thankful, because I could not imagine getting up at that point.
Right.
And the phlebotomy gal kept coming in at every few hours.
Phlebotomy gal!
Did
she have a cape?
She needed a cape. She had her cart, and it was like blinged out with little letters, and it said...
That's odd.
Phlebotomy girl.
It did?
It did. And like pink letters, and she take a sip because she had the biggest eyelashes I've ever seen in my entire life. But she was aces at her job.
She was blingy.
She was aces. She was just stick my arm.
You sound like such an old person, you know? Like I had a phlebotomy gal, and she was aces. Did she have nice gams?
I said aces on purpose.
I know.
You were supposed to pick up fine.
I know.
And then I had a catheter in, I had a drain in my knee,
You still have a drain in your knee?
Still have a drain in my knee. I have my new piece of, what do we call this, hardware or software?
I think it's software.
Because I have an ileostomy, so I have a crap bag on my body. On the higher part
bag.
of higher part.
Crap bag.
Blood pressure cuff on, 3 IVs just hanging out of me at all times.
Right, which they weren't really using.
Though the one they would just put the antibiotic in.
Fluids and antibiotic.
Fluids and whatever. And
so we learned that this is an ileostomy because your bag or your ostomy comes from your upper intestine.
Yes.
And a colostomy comes from your lower intestine,
which
or your large intestine,
yeah.
Your colon. So that's not. I just had ostomy in my head. I didn't know.
Yeah, they call it ostomy or an ileostomy, and the other one's called a colostomy.
Yes.
So ostomy always means up here. So I have a couple of like laparoscopic incisions where they took a look to see, what piece of intestine they were going to pull out, and it's called a stoma. And the nurse told me, some people don't like to know this, but basically they slice open that piece of intestine and flip it inside out. She's like a turtleneck.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and that's the piece that you see.
I liked that you saved this for almost 3 weeks later.
Well,
first of all, you called it a stoma, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. But I also never thought, that's something I learned. I never really thought when,
we are here to educate.
If you said stoma to me, I would think in the throat.
Right.
Like I hadn't. And that turtleneck analogy, oh my.
I was kind of like, oh, I see why that annoys people.
Some people don't like to know this.
Thanks for telling me.
We're going to have to label this one
with a warning.
Explicit.
Yeah. But she also said in how easy it was for them to reverse them, and then I would see a little piece, which I do, and that's they leave a little piece in the wings, so that when they stuff it back in, that flap comes over, and they sew it up, and you're good.
Yes,
they're like, NBD, we're putting your colon, but you're not your colon, your intestine back in.
No big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really.
Because it will be reversed, but I have this for about 3 months.
Yes, and this is all...
So it's just as disgusting as you think it would be.
It's fun! Yay!
Oh, no, they say, no one's going to notice. Yeah, okay. Well, how do I wear even bigger shirts?
Well, this is part of your recovery, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk about is how much you don't realize goes into recovery.
Yeah.
And nobody can really prepare you for. I talked about before, after my lobectomy, how, in the last several days, or most of my hospital stay, I was sleeping in a chair.
Right. Nobody told you that.
Right. And then I wouldn't be laying down, and it took me almost 3 weeks to get into my bed.
Mm-hmm.
I went from recliner to couch, eventually to my bed with a whole bunch of pillows. Eventually I took the pillows away. There wasn't, and I don't know if this is a failure of the healthcare system or not, or if it's just they don't want to overwhelm the patient with that much information, but that's something we just had to figure out for ourselves. And you knew ahead of time that you were not supposed to sit because of the pressure on the newly repaired tissue, so that you needed to be in a reclined position. But what you also were kind of left to figure out what that means for you and how
Right.
you will do it.
And I've had home health out since, but they say, is there anything else you need? But like, they don't, they are just medical. They care. Like, I had a really good nurse come by this week, but like, they don't quite talk to you about living. Mm-hmm. They do have to see.
The physical therapist did a little bit.
The physical therapist wanted to see where I walk, what the stairs look like. Watch me go up and down the stairs.
But that is to design your
PT
rehabilitation program. Nobody did like a home assessment to help you figure out.
No, they just asked me, do you live alone, and do you own or rent, and what kind of house is it, and how many bathrooms do you have, and do you have animals? Right,
but they repurposed one of your hamstring muscles.
Yeah.
Plus all the repair that happened in the vaginal-rectal space. Do you think that's how we say it?
They say recto-vaginal.
Right. Okay,
the other way around. Better? I don't know.
The other way around. But
yeah,
because of all the repair, the drain that is just above your knee, or no, it's just below your knee.
Just below my knee, yeah.
To allow movement in that leg, because there's no room for really fluid build up. But
right.
Nobody in the hospital then says, maybe it's going to be hard for you to sit on the toilet. We should get you one of those toilet seats.
Right.
Through your, sort of the first time you take a shower, you may not be able to stand for the length of your shower.
Yeah.
Let's get you a shower chair. They don't walk you through that.
I will tell you, I had excellent nurses, except for like the half day I didn't. This woman...
That one night nurse, right?
I'd like to call her Helga. In fact, I don't even know what her actual name is, but
because
she was so rude. She hated life. She hated me. And she's like, okay, we're going to take this catheter out. I had been in that room for less than a day.
She took it out at night?
Yeah.
Oh.
And she's just like, whoop. And I'm like, ow! She could not care less.
Thank you for yelling as loud as you did.
Well, I like to do a good reenactment.
A dramatic reenactment.
Because I can't stomp around like Helga right now.
In the role of...
But I don't want to, and I couldn't believe that I had to get up and pee. And it was excruciating.
Well, just from the standpoint of, sure, you tolerated it well, but for 8 or so hours, you said how the back of your head hurt because you were laying...
I had like a ridge.
On an operating table for so long.
It was bruised.
There's just...
A welt, if you will.
And the amount of fluid they pump into you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, your body is just a wreck.
Yeah, which I'm checking now. It's gone.
Well, see, I know that my catheter came out pretty soon as well, and that's an important step.
Sure. But I wanted to be like, who told you to do that? And I knew that they would get me up to walk and everything, and I was very well drugged up, so I didn't feel anything. But, I did. And, there's pieces. I do want to tell a couple quick nurse stories, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth on what this is because I think people don't understand what I'm going through.
Right, and that's why we wanted to focus on recovery.
If they have to have something like I talked this morning to Jackie, who's my friend and massage therapist, and she does all the voodoo. She's like magic, you know her.
Yes.
And she had a procedure. I guess I can't show that, but
Voodoo Jackie.
Voodoo Jackie. But I said, this is really hard, like harder than anything I've done and harder than I could have imagined. And she's like, yeah, people don't tell you. And also I cried for like 48 hours, maybe 36, like just uncontrollably. And you were here for a lot of it, and I couldn't stop it. And I couldn't always tell you what it did or why it came about, but
Well,
it's... Yeah, I got a lot going on.
You're jumping around again.
Well...
You're jumping up. We went from hospital to tears, and those things didn't happen.
This is part of recovery.
And
anyway,
that's
couple quick fun nurse stories, and I make them short. All right, what were you gonna say?
Doesn't matter. Go ahead.
She gave me a face, you guys. What? Go ahead.
Well, we're not taking any pictures today.
Ain't nobody want to see this.
We are both reclining, and anyhow, no pictures today.
I do jump around a lot, but what do you want me to say?
Well, I was just going to say that, one of the primary things I think we should talk about in recovery is where you were headed, but you mentioned the tears, and that was after about 10 to 12 days, because you saw your follow-up with one of your surgeons.
Yeah.
Was at about day 10.
It was one of the worst days of my life, too.
It was awful. But that you were going to see your surgeon to see if it was time for the drain to come out, and it didn't, and that wasn't a hard, a hard blow to you, but he told you, to sort of clarify what you were already feeling, that at that point you were going to be feeling more pain, more fatigue, and what else did he say? More pain, more fatigue.
Feel like you're backsliding a little bit, feeling like things are really hard. And he wasn't kidding.
And he was great about that, because he was like, this is normal, and you should know this is normal. He suggested protein shakes.
Yeah.
And we will have to talk about your diet. That's one of the things we want to talk about today. But as a supplement, that'll be important to your strength and your energy, of course.
Yeah. Well, thank God he said it, and he was really good about explaining using the gracilis to make the patch, in very layman terms, the patch over the hole that was left by the original tumor that they wanted to atrophy. So as I'm going through this recovery, I need to make sure the rest of my muscles are not wasting away because of the little movement and the little amount of food, and the kinds of foods I'm eating don't have a lot of protein in them. So he said the best way to get through this especially hard phase, which he said was 7 to 10 days, is with protein shakes. And I'm thankful for that, and I do believe it's helped.
And 7 to 10 days is 3 to 4 weeks. And I think that's an important point to make, because when we're talking about recovery, that's really rough, and I think it's great for us to talk about that. People know, and I think people who are listening to us who have been through not even the same surgeries but other major surgeries know this feeling. There's a point at which all the anesthesia has left your body. I know, and I support the medical practice of not sending anybody home with a lot of narcotics. Like, I understand that and I get it.
For sure.
But you get 5 or 6 days of what you had was Percocet. So basically you've got, if you don't have 6 days worth, you have 6 pills.
Right.
They only want you to take 1 a day. It's not like you're taking more than 1 a day.
And in the hospital, you're getting like 3 or 4 a day.
Well, and you were not on Percocet.
No.
Like I wasn't. You're on the big drugs, and because that's one of the measures you have to. You can't take the IV drugs. You have to be able to take a pill. But as your body is metabolizing all of, all that was put into your body, there is a huge letdown. But on top of that, last night, so we decided this is what, day 18?
Yep.
Was the first night you slept in your own bed.
Yeah. Took 17 days for me to go back to my bed.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
But pretty great. Cause you got
it's a win.
It's not that you've not been sleeping well, but always getting into your own bed is going to be better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm thankful that I had the spare room set up, and I had been sort of I did a couple of extra things to make it nicer because I knew I would have visitors. So when I came here, I was like, oh, this blanket's so fuzzy and soft. Even though I didn't buy it for myself. But this is a nice room. And I have my little Christmas tree in here.
Yeah, and a pretty jade plant.
And it felt,
artwork and a television.
Felt welcoming. I got to binge Emily in Paris.
Excellent.
And because I don't have a TV in my room, and I won't.
Virgin River.
And Virgin River. Oh, my goodness. That's a whole different podcast.
Dun, dun, dun.
But I would, if I had this TV in my room, normally I'd stay up too late, but it was really...
Did you say CD?
I said TV.
Oh.
Put on your listening ears.
I really heard if I had a CD in my room.
There is a DVD player in here.
There's a DVD player?
There used to be. I might have chucked it when I got
back. You don't have that anymore.
Might have got mad
from the
sometime
delicate
and
shelving
said, screw
system.
that. But so real quick, my nurses stories, because I love small world stories, and a couple podcasts ago I talked about what happened when I went to church.
Oh yeah.
Right? So the same thing happened to me. And as part of the recovery team, they have the psychologist come in and just kind of make sure you're okay. And I'm chatting away, and she asked me, I'm pretty sure she asked me what I did for a living, and I mentioned swimming. And she said, oh, she loves swimming. She and one of her dearest friends, and she has an accent. Mm-hmm. I was trying to figure out where she was from. And one of her dearest friends, it's a funny story that they were swimming together, and she had her daughter in swim lessons, and her friend's daughter said, I want to do swim lessons too. And then she says, oh, and now she swims for Copley High School.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, you don't say. And once she said it, I knew exactly who it was.
Oh, how neat.
Yeah. And she's like, of course I won't share this. This is not my business to share, but I love that we connected in this way.
Oh, that is so nice.
And it kind of opened the door for us, and it was really nice, and she's very caring. And then my last nurse, the day I got released from the hospital, day 5, I was super thankful for her, because, she came in, I could tell she was real matter of fact, but she was friendly, but she just knew her stuff, Mm-hmm. She was one of those took pride in what she was doing. And I said, hey, the surgical team was just in here, and they said that I'm medically cleared to leave, but how am I supposed to actually know if I should leave? Mm-hmm. Because everyone's like, it's up to you, and I'm like, is it?
Is it up to me?
I don't know, So she helped me walk through everything, and she was so nice, and she was giving me pain meds, and she said, well, I'll go ahead and, put this in, and, with her, I decided that I could go ahead, because there's I won't tell you what to do, but she said there's a lot of magic in you being at home, and I said, I could envision being home and how good that might feel, and so that's what sort of, made the decision. But in the meantime, she said something like, I wish I could have some of these. I'm so sore from my Pilates class. And I'm like, So she was talking about something else, and then I said, so where do you take Pilates? And we have this whole conversation, and of course she goes to Club Pilates, and she was one of the founding members, and it's not one of the clubs that I ever managed, but obviously it's a club that my friend manages, and she's like, oh, she knows exactly who I am,
it's not too funny that you run into those people.
I'm in an Akron hospital.
But that those become part of your, those keywords become part of your conversation.
Yes.
And that you find the connection. Yeah.
And I like doing that, and I always have. Mm-hmm. But as soon as she said Pilates, I was like, I know where this is going.
Yes.
So... And I was right, and it was hilarious.
Mom used to say about you that when we'd go places, you would be the one who'd always make a friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I've always done it. So.
You were born that way.
That's it. And what about you?
That's a Lady Gaga song, and I can't come up with it.
I know you wanted to.
Oh, I want to, but I can't.
Remember those years where I used to hide behind you, though?
No.
I do. I would push you out of me.
Because I was just a little bit taller? I don't know.
I would make you ask the adult whatever had to be asked. I was so afraid to do it.
Oh my gosh. That's a different episode.
That's another podcast too.
Well, in the terms of recovery, in your new but temporary time with an ileostomy, We made reference to food, so
Yeah.
you're essentially on a brat diet.
Yeah. Soft foods and
Easily digestible.
Easily digestible. And like, the ostomy nurse gave me suggestions, and I have a whole sheet from the dietitian on things to eat and not eat. And of course they use the example of corn. She's like, everybody can understand that. Wink, wink. So I was like, yeah. But, so that's no popcorn, but also pineapple, mushrooms. She's like, definitely no celery.
And no raw vegetables.
No raw vegetables. They have to basically be cooked in a soup, really mushy kind of thing. Vegetables in a soup, in a delicious soup that I just wanted to eat and eat and eat. I'm finding I'm not quite ready for yet, and that sucks. So I think the first thing I ate was mashed potatoes, and then the second thing was applesauce.
You've had macaroni and cheese.
Had plenty of macaroni and cheese.
With success. White breads. Sorry, Jackie.
Yeah. White. No, like I had to give
bleached flour products.
I had to give you like my hearty breads, and
yeah.
I can't eat any nuts right now. Like
no nuts, no seeds, no raw vegetables.
I roast my own almonds, and I do all that, and I can't eat any of that.
So on Christmas Day, you had a couple bites of ham.
Delightful. So
didn't
good.
you have maybe?
I had macaroni and cheese and applesauce and a roll.
No, I mean not Christmas dinner, but I mean as far as moving away from essentially the brat diet, did you have tuna? Am I making this up?
Yeah, Aunt Susan made me this tuna pasta, like a tuna salad, but with pasta.
Right, which was
so good.
Which was digestible.
It's the first time I had
good.
any kind of protein, and then ham, and I ordered myself a pizza. If anybody wants to come over and eat it, because I can't eat it all, but I had like bacon put on half of it, and man, was that just so good.
It was delicious, and that's the thing. Like on the pizza, it's in small pieces of bacon. So we also need to talk about portions because. Yeah. What's really important for, like, we talked about this before about, diet and management and it's poop management.
I can't escape this.
I wonder if they...
I can't escape this crap.
Nice pun.
Thanks.
I wonder if this is a college course. Poop management.
We should make it. Poop management 101. But, then back to the protein shakes, which I can easily digest, and
they suggested a multivitamin.
Mom searched high and low for a non-gummy.
Chewable, but not gummy vitamin.
Right.
Which she had to go to the almighty Amazon to find.
Yeah, she tried locally.
She called a couple of pharmacies. Now, I knew a couple of pharmacies would be able to order them, but not... She would have to go to the local specialty pharmacy, not even the chain pharmacy.
Like a compounding pharmacy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was interesting that it was so difficult to find. Now I just have to remind you to take it. But
they're like big Smarties, but they're pretty good.
So small portions.
Very small.
Because in your upper intestine, and that's the placement of the bag, things move through your body pretty quickly.
You don't really have time to digest.
Right. I mean, it moves pretty quickly.
It gets the stomach acid, but that's
input
it.
Goes to output pretty quickly. Yeah. That's the kindest way I can say it.
So when I have my morning coffee...
Just in case you guys want to know what we're like, I took her dog for a walk, and after I had to pick up her poop and put it in a bag, I tied it to her harness. And I was like, look, Zena does it too.
Zena's got a poop bag too.
And I'm glad we're laughing about it, because back to your tears, like there's been... I dare say you'll cry about just anything these days, but...
it's a lot of grief, but like the kind of tears that are like, you might think
big.
Like today, you almost thought I was like fake crying, right? Or was I laughing?
Well, no, I thought you... So I thought you were hurt because, I brought Xena in. Xena, one of her dogs, has been staying with me. And I brought her back into Amanda's home today. And it was a nice reunion, but I didn't see. And what we were afraid of was one of Xena's big heavy paws pulling at either the ostomy bag or the drain in your leg. Mm-hmm. And you started crying immediately in such a big way. I was concerned that she hurt you, just like that. Right. And it turns out it was just a happy homecoming.
Yeah. Well, I really missed her, and if anybody that follows me on social saw, then you were here along with George, but, Roxy, we lost Roxy last week, so not having the dogs here because I'm so fragile, and then losing her, and, Xena coming back and being my only dog now, it's just, extra emotional. Mm-hmm. So,
and it's the fact that your dogs had to be kept away from you is what you need for recovery, but it's not is for your emotional health is not good for recovery.
Right.
So I understand the tears in bringing her back home today.
Yeah, and I can't wait till she snuggles and hunkers down and realizes she's home.
Yeah.
She follows you around everywhere you go.
Boy, does she follow.
She was on vacation at your house.
Yeah.
She was having a good old time.
Well, I've learned that I'm the leader of the pack. By the way.
Who's the leader?
I'm the alpha dog.
Oh, yeah.
Because, let me tell you, if I sit on the toilet, all three of them are coming to see what I'm doing.
It's true.
It's like having little kids again. Yeah. What are you doing, Mom? What are you doing? I need something. Do you have a snack? Yeah, I mean, they're pretty intense dogs. So we have talked about reclining.
Yeah.
As we are doing right now.
I won't be able to actually sit for,
I think, 10 more weeks.
A while.
Is that right? Is that true?
Gosh, he said it was long. I'll have to get some clarification on that.
Right. I might be making that up. I'm not making it up, but just jumbling it up. I think that. But you're not. Anyways, you already know it's not comfortable. So, I took you over to Mom's house on Christmas Day, which is approximately 3 miles.
Yeah, it's 5 minutes, probably.
And that was an uncomfortable ride.
Yeah. The car is not my friend, and I miss driving.
You sat on the couch with, you have gas in your car for whenever you do it again. You sat on the couch with a tray table. Yeah. A la the 1980s. Yeah. It was great. But when we're going to talk about some of the other things, in recovery, and with it being this time of year, kind of some things we were reflecting on. Yeah,
I wrote down these notes at 3 a.m. because, well, I don't know, because two things happen. When I read or listen to a book, I feel like I'm going to be the best author there is, and I should just start writing a book. So, does that happen to you?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should write.
I am a mastermind. It gets the creative juices flowing. But I was listening to one of my books last night. But also...
What are you listening to?
It is a series that's an Amazon original on Audible about vampires.
Oh.
But it's not it's like vampires in present day. It's a neat spin on things.
Okay.
Yeah. And I like the writer and the narrator. Anyway. But also because, a couple people have asked, what am I doing for New Year's Eve? And I was reflecting on the fact that Christmas, it really was just so happy that I could even be there. Mm-hmm. And there was a chance I couldn't have been. It could have been a bad day. I could have woken up and been in a lot of pain or
It something. Was a bad day.
It was.
I kind of remember grabbing you by the face and...
Yes. Yeah, because I was thinking, we like to dress up or, dress a little nicer. I and I can only wear loose clothing, top and bottom. I still have to account for the drain in my knee. Even just putting on, a real bra. Showering, you've had to be here for every shower just so I don't bite it. And like the mere thought of getting ready, I was like, I'm already exhausted, and I was emotional. And holidays can be emotional for me sometimes anyway, because then, loss comes up, or I think about Dad, or I think about the fact that I'm single, and what actually didn't happen this time was I didn't even think about being single. Like, the whole family was rallying around me. But there was a moment where I was, like, sitting in the family room by myself, and everybody was getting food. And I thought, oh, my God, what am I going to do if nobody comes and sits with me? Like, for a minute, I thought I was going to be forgotten about.
Part of the reason why I grabbed you by the face, because I was
Yeah.
like, in what world are you going to be sitting by yourself? I'm not discounting your fear, but I was like, stop that.
No, I know. It's
because you just know that's not true.
And that's just the emotional part of surgery that I don't think anybody talks about. And there's so many things, especially the medicines or the anesthesia, which really kind of stays in for a long time. And as it comes out, it can be messing with you. And what Dr. Subichin said about how this is going to be my roughest week, and he's like spot on.
Well, I mean, it's physically and emotionally the roughest week, because of like what's happening to you, the fact that we lost Roxy.
Yeah,
like that's enough in any world, and
sure.
perfectly physically and mentally healthy. But then this is just about the time. Christmas fell at the time when I think for everybody going through something like this, you naturally have a moment.
Yes.
Where, I mean, insert your favorite, like, screw this kind of of language, but you're just over it. I had the day, I told you it took me 3 weeks to get back into my bed, and so after about 2 weeks, I was throwing a full-on fit.
Right.
And it probably took another 2, maybe even another 3 weeks before I was able to lay it on my side.
Mm-hmm.
And, same thing, like if you're a side sleeper and you can't do that for 2 months, it just wears on you. Like, I'm not a back sleeper, but I had to become a back sleeper.
Yeah. And then I even thought about asking him to put he told me it didn't matter, but like which gracilis muscle he took, so that but I'm like, I'm a left side sleeper. But I found that as I started to get better, and with the body pillow or many a pillow, right? Mm-hmm. If I went to my left side and I had something between my knees that, the weight of my right leg was too much, but I could still use my backup side, which is my right side.
Your backup side.
So
we all understand the favorite sleeper side, I think.
But it would only last for like 10 minutes before I'd start to get into real pain, and then I'd have to move again. But those things really mess with you. And then the other thing that happens is this time of year is we're all like, I'm over this year. Like, you open TikTok and it was like, what are the 3 words of 2023?
Oh my.
Right? And it was like, mine was like, joy, you got married, and something else, and I was like, F you, TikTok. That was enough. Like, I closed the app down.
And we're done.
But this is the time that people make resolutions.
And it's a time of natural reflection anyway.
Right.
And you have a lot of time to think. But let's talk about reflection in a different way here. Yeah. Your home care nurse, how did he had an HPV conversation with you?
He plopped down, he came right in and sat down and introduced himself, and he's like, so HPV, huh? And he's like, I was reading through your chart, and he's like, I'm full-time with, it's from the hospital, their Summa Home Health. He's like, but I might be in a full-time research position. If I do, I want to talk more about this, because he's like, as an RN, we find parents just don't listen. So I explained, he's like, so all of this came from that original thing. And like, he wanted to know how I knew and what happened. And I basically... Let's underscore, highlight, exclamation point. Right, we haven't said that in a while.
I know.
Get out your pens.
Your rectal cancer, my rectal cancer from HPV. Your metastasis from HPV. And not that in your lungs it's HPV, but it's the squamous cell, just one little cell or 3 or whatever it was that implants in your lungs. And here you are.
Right.
Everything we have talked about in this, in season 1 and now in season 4, it really has to do...
Season 2.
Holy moly. Episode 4 of season 2. But it really does have to do with HPV. Now, my lung cancer was its own lung cancer.
Yeah.
But, that's just because I'm a real party inside.
Yeah.
No, I'm perfectly average. Not a party anymore. But,
that's right. But it's true. And he was one of the first that, basically, well, first of all, I did his homework,
Mm-hmm.
and because most nurses in the hospital would look at the picture that's on my chart, and then they would ask me my birthday and my full name again, and they're like, well, you don't look the same person. And then they're like, what made you cut your hair? And I'm like, it's called cancer. I lost it all.
It's so...
I'm like, dumbass. Thanks
my
for making
gosh.
me an enemy.
Just
but anyway.
an enemy.
I know, I was like immediately mad. But anyway.
Leave, enemy.
Leave. But he was so very interested and he wanted research, and we talked about our podcast, and I sent him the one on HPV because it's been very valuable from the people that have given us the feedback and said that they've shared it and said that they've...
And because some of the nurses that we've listened to, one of our high school classmates was so kind to let us know that she shares our story when she talks to parents, because in an office setting where vaccination comes up for young children, because we talked about vaccination as early as 11 and as long as, what did we find out, 45?
Yeah, up until 45.
What we found out for about vaccination, and parents are worried about vaccination at all, but they also think, well, why would I do that to my child? They're not sexually active. Which it hurts my heart, because you don't think they're going to grow up and ever be sexually active?
Well,
when 4 out of 5 people have HPV, and you won't do this simple step, not only to protect them from irregular cells or cervical cancer, but rectal cancer, throat cancer, mouth cancer, tongue cancer. I mean, oh my goodness.
Someplace else.
Metastasis anywhere in your body.
And so I remember clearly in Dr. Walsh when I first met him, and no, it was Dr. Pleat, but he said, be thankful it's rectal cancer. Because he showed me what happens when it's in your face. And I thought to myself immediately, oh, I would die. Like, I wouldn't make it. And we are not the people that are, vaccine pushers, and we understand there's a stigma ever since COVID. I mean, there's always been a bit of a stigma, but
I will say that in this case, I'm a vaccine pusher.
Well, I am too. What I want to push is open your eyes, open your ears as you listen to us right now, and actually think about this. And I wish I could remember. I did post it on our Instagram. What Dr. Pleat said was, it's not even considered sexual contact anymore. It is intimate contact with someone, closeness. Because it's so easily passed. So easily spread. You don't even have to be naked. It's not it is losing I'm sure it's more prevalent if it's sexual contact, but so many people don't know they have it. Yes. That's part of it. Right. Well, and the fact that the most common cancer that's projected for 24 and 25 is HPV-related throat and mouth cancers. Yeah. For the United States. I mean, that is terrifying. Sobering. It's terrifying. Yes, sobering's a good word for it. There are people we care about that have not listened to that specific episode. Right. That it could impact them. And all I want to say is just be open to listening. Right. And every parent has to make an informed decision for their child, and every adult has to make an informed decision for themselves.
even though I feel like this is a no-brainer. But let's get back to reflection, because as we reflect on all of our episodes and we kind of think about like the rest of the world is thinking about as we enter the next year,
yes,
what can we change? What can we do for ourselves? What healthy step can we take? So we've kind of thought, maybe it's one more vegetable-based meal per week.
Before you get into that, and I want to say, like, when I was thinking about it, like, we're not going to set resolutions. I want to just say,
I don't ever set resolutions.
No, neither do I. But with us as we podcast each week, we're going to talk about something that we are doing each week to further our health, essentially, and we want you to join us.
You're going to walk to the mailbox.
I'm going to walk to the mailbox by myself.
Or pick up your Amazon packages if they're under 10 pounds.
Yes.
I don't want to say it's a problem, but every day when I come over here, there's a package at your door.
Well, I mean, and thank you, because people have been sending me gifts.
Yes.
But also, I was Christmasing. But, and I got some beautiful flowers, and I probably shouldn't have lifted them, but I did. Anyhow, so we did think of some ideas that aren't resolutions, but what are things that you can do to move yourself forward, and we're going to be doing it with you, and we want you to share with us what you're doing. So you want to run down
like simple health
some of the ideas
steps.
We have. Simple health steps.
Well, we talked with Jackie about square breathing, and there's a lot from our conversation with Jackie that I have incorporated into my own life. But the square breathing, especially when there's a change in weather or allergens in the air or whatever it is, something that sort of will bring that cough back to me. My work building, but that is something will sort of break the feeling of needing to cough, or will sort of break my coughing, is to stop and use something like square breathing. Now that's just one of many examples.
So good to hear.
of that sort of meditative, purposeful inhale, exhale.
Right.
But maybe that is something you incorporate each night before bed, because it lowers cortisol levels and can help, not you personally, you, our listeners, us, the general you, to lower cortisol levels before bed to help us relax.
This is a great idea. And one thing I've used with my swimmers, and that I can't do it right now, but is legs up a wall, and it helps reset your nervous system. It's like if anyone practices yoga, it is a type of inversion, right? Your feet are in the air. It helps move things through your circulation. So if you're having some swelling, it also helps release the pressure in your back and your shoulders and all the things.
Be very helpful.
And so that's something.
Right.
It'll be a goal of mine to be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily a resolution, but it's purposefully thinking about a healthy step, which might quite literally be, like we said for you, steps to the mailbox, or we are having an unseasonably warm December.
Yeah.
And if it's not raining, open a window.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Get some fresh air.
Walk your animals, or just walk your own butt around the block. Just because we all know the benefits of walking.
And fresh
when
air.
You're stuck inside because it's cold or rainy, do something to help with the sort of emotional or mental clutter by decluttering.
Yeah.
A junk drawer, let's say, a closet shelf. This is just like
even your
taking
fridge or your cupboard or your pantry, like something that you got, because you gotta realize
out of the cheese drawer.
Yes, like something you realize is you look past every single day, but it bugs you, and when you clean it out, it changes the world. Like, I'm so proud of the organized junk drawer I have, and that was like from 7 months ago. I let my neighbor borrow my kitchen on Christmas Day because her oven died. And I was like, man, I hope she opens the junk drawer and sees how organized I am. You know, like it's a
like
sense of pride.
It's like a gold star on your chart. Look at this drawer, not the other ones, but look at this one.
Look at this. Yes.
I'll tell you what it is. It's like you come to my house and you tell me what I've been ignoring, you know, for so long, and I come into I do it to you all the time.
All the time.
But friends or family, I mean, you see there's something, or when somebody's coming over.
Yes.
You know, I've heard people say before, like, live like you're moving. You know, what should this room look like if someone was coming over?
That's why I love this room so much.
Because it's clean and pretty and organized. Yeah. And it feels good.
And I have to usually, I've always left the door closed because of the dogs, but like there are times where, especially when it's sunny, that I open the door just because I like to walk past this room. It gives me joy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, what are some...
Talk to somebody about getting a colonoscopy.
Yes.
I know we have talked about it before, but we've had friends who have said, you know, because of your experience or listening to this podcast, we scheduled that colonoscopy.
Or I did the...
we talked about it.
You know.
Sending your poop off in a box.
Poop in a box.
Poop in
Poop in a bag.
Step 1.
Excuse me.
Oh my. You know, schedule that appointment that you don't want to schedule, but that has been in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Well, I did talk to another classmate about, oh, well, you know, I'll have this appointment in February. And I just kind of said, why? Why would you wait until February? You've been thinking about this so much, and this has been on your mind so much.
Make the call.
Nobody wants to go to the doctor. I understand that. But, you know, we've talked a lot about not ignoring how you're feeling. Also, don't ignore that inner voice that tells you this isn't right.
Pay attention.
Right?
Yes.
So schedule that appointment. That's not something we're going to really be doing because we both have a lot of appointments scheduled already.
Yeah.
You know, but the final thing I might suggest is continuing to listen to our podcast.
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think that we have found, and we didn't know what would come out of it. There's been more than we ever could have expected.
Mm-hmm.
But when you listen, I think the thing is that there's someone that, as a listener, you think of. And like, I was not a heavy podcaster. I would listen here and there.
A podcast listener.
Yes, podcast listener. And things that I thought were funny or things that were shared.
Because I am a heavy podcaster.
Yes. Podcaster.
That's self-deprecating humor. Get it?
Yes.
I'm a podcaster.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, but commit to actually listening.
Mm-hmm.
And because why have you been avoiding it? Because people tell us I've been so busy. I've had one person be real honest and say, because of my own situation, it's been hard for me to listen, and I understand.
Oh, for sure.
But you're going to hear something, whether it's from one of our guests or it's something that we've discovered along the way, right? That we want you to know that could help you and or someone else you know. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't, because we're going to send this to everybody that we know, but if you haven't listened, start from the beginning.
To everybody who know me.
Shout out to everybody who know me.
What was that? 93.1?
WZAK.
The shout outs.
The shout outs.
All right. On that note, we got to keep this under an hour. Look at that.
Oh, well.
This is a long one.
We've been talking.
Like, we've had weeks of things to talk about. So we did a good job. Thanks. As always, thanks for making it to the end of the podcast.
We appreciate you. And
until next time.
And we hope that...
Does this happen every time?
It does.
What?
But no, we hope that you think about the things that we have suggested. And we're going to put a spot in for feedback where you can reply and tell us what in week 1 of January are you going to try. Or drop us some more suggestions that we can share with our listeners.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So now, thanks for listening.
And until next time, bye!